In America, the People's Assembly is paralysed. Last night, Kevin McCarthy was ousted from his position as House Speaker. And if you thought that was chaotic, wait for the second course. Right now, the plan for Republicans is to take a week off, elect a new Speaker and forget this ever happened. But there isn't much confidence among Republicans that they'll be able to do that quickly. It's not for a lack of candidates. There are 4 or 5 in the ring, including the Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who, despite his treatment for blood cancer, has thrown his hat in the ring tonight. But the real challenge for House Republicans is finding someone willing to do the job. It's whether a profoundly fractured conference can muster enough unity to hand the new Speaker a stable majority, something we've not seen since the midterms. Joining me to discuss is Aaron Zitner. He's a reporter at the Wall Street Journal. Aaron, good to see you this evening. So we're in unprecedented, uncharted territory here. What do you think happens next?
Well, someone will emerge as the next Speaker. And it could take as long as it took the last time in January. It took 15 ballots, which also was unprecedented, for Kevin McCarthy to be elected Speaker. He was the front runner all the way through, but it was only after 15 ballots that he could get enough of his own people on board within the party to support him. And then, 9 months later, he's thrown out the window, which is the first time in American politics. It's the first time we've seen a House Speaker thrown out. So they'll come up with someone. And the question is, will that person be someone who can govern in a time of divided government? Can they get things done? Kevin McCarthy was punished for governing and getting things done that had to be done. Otherwise, the government would have shut down and the U.S. would have defaulted on debts. And in doing those things to get things done, he was punished by his own party.
We're just 42 days away, though, from another decision that has to be made to keep the government open. Is there anything to stop Matt Gaetz and the other 8 rebels last night from voting against the new Speaker if they don't like the spending plans he or she is putting forward?
Well, that's the really big question. I mean, half of America didn't know who Kevin McCarthy was, and I doubt that really any Americans know the names of these people who are trying to replace him, other than the people who are directly represented by them around the country. And yet this says something very big about a big change in politics. People like Matt Gaetz, they don't need to be team players. Social media, online fundraising, partisan media, that allows people like Matt Gaetz to build their own profile independent of the political parties. They don't need the Speaker of the House to come to campaign for him. Kevin McCarthy raised something like $260 million for the party in the last election 2-year cycle alone, and that didn't save him here. A lot of politicians can build their own profiles, be independent, to do what they want to do, and they don't have to support their own team.
Aaron, I like to tell people around the world who are watching why this is relevant to them. And if they're watching the markets at the moment, they will see that the bond prices, the 10-year bond, the 30-year bond, is starting to rise, the interest rates on those bonds. That means that servicing debt becomes more expensive, not just for the US government, but because all these bond markets are linked, it becomes more expensive for the UK government as well at the moment. To what degree do you think this political chaos in Washington is driving the bond prices?
I can't draw a straight line from what happened yesterday in the House of Representatives to the bond market. But I think from a military standpoint and an economic leadership standpoint, other countries are wondering what kind of country the United States is. After 4 years of Donald Trump, a lot of norms in our international relations and relations with allies were changed. Our posture toward Russia is changed. And we keep going from crisis to crisis in trying to keep our own fiscal house in order. And again, every few years, we have a fight over whether we will pay off our bonds. The Treasury bond is sacrosanct, and yet we keep running to these situations where our government is unable to smoothly find its way to raising the debt ceiling, which is needed to pay our fiscal obligations. And I imagine that is raising questions all around the world.
Oh, indeed, because big picture here, the United States is the major player on the world stage. And if there was to be a crisis at any moment, Aaron, if it was a terror attack or the bank run that we had not many months ago, there's no one running the show. I mean, you'd have to hope that they could come and find someone quickly, but there are no guarantees for that.
Well, there is a temporary speaker, and he's an institutionalist and a person who is in the camp of getting things done. He may or may not run. It looks like he probably won't. His name is Patrick McHenry, and he's there now. And if there were a crisis, he would step in and have the support of his conference in a crisis. But on the longer term, look, this is like a 15-year story that's been going on ever since President Obama was elected in 2008, which engendered a big Republican pushback and a lot of political fighting. The animosity. You can't say American politics are bitter now. They're more than that. There's outright animosity between these parties. And in the political space and campaigns, it's all performative and it doesn't matter. But at some point, in a divided government, with one party having the White House and the Senate and the other party having the House of Representatives, people have to come together and come to an agreement. And you have a group in the House, the group that voted against Kevin McCarthy and engendered this chaos, who are willing to live with chaos. And their first impulse is not to come to compromise.
We will watch closely what happens because, as you say, it impacts all of us. Aaron, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you.